Support for WCBU's On Deck comes from Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road, offering complimentary pickup and delivery for service with every new vehicle purchase, including the Land Rover Defender. Details at jaguarlandroverpeoria.com. This is WCBU, Peoria Public Radio.
A Peoria primary school is packed full of young poets. That's just one of the things you'll want to hear about to start your day for Wednesday, August 21st. I'm Colin Shope, and this is WCBU's On Deck. First on deck today, heat is the deadliest climate-driven disaster in the U.S. Already in the Midwest and Great Plains, there have been several reports of heat-related deaths this year. But as Harvest Public Media's Kate Grumke reports, experts say many more people likely die of heat than the numbers show.
Extreme heat can cause all kinds of life-threatening health effects. Some are explicitly related to high temperatures, like heat stroke. But something like a heart attack, spurred by heat, can be harder to track. Dr. Alok Sengupta is an emergency medicine physician and chief medical officer at Mercy Hospital, St. Louis.
If heat illness or heat exhaustion or heat stroke isn't listed as a cause, you're not going to know that that was a contributing factor. So it's definitely underreported.
Even without a clear picture of the data, the National Weather Service says heat kills more people every year than hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods. For Harvest Public Media, I'm Kate Grumke.
Here are some other stories we're following in the WCBU newsroom. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says his wife may be the final decision maker in his next big political move. The state's two-term Democratic governor has been mum about whether he intends to seek re-election in 2026. Plus, the city of Peoria intends to put a large portion of recently donated downtown office space on the market. The Allied Benefits Group recently gave the city 12,000 square feet of vacant commercial space on the third floor of the Twin Tower Plaza. And the city of Washington is losing its fifth city administrator in the last 5 years. Jim Snyder voluntarily stepped down from the position this week, 8 months before the end of his current contract. You can find more of these stories and all the details at WCBU.org. Peoria's Whittier Primary School is sowing the seeds for many a young award-winning poet. WCBU's Cameron Cutinello visited the school to hear more from these budding weavers of meter and verse.
I walk in and see stories floating up. I choose one with caution and excitement as I unravel the story inside. The feelings poured into me as if it almost was real.
That was 8-year-old Antonio Galindo reading his winning poem, Ode to a Library. Antonio was one of 2 second-grade winners selected for the Gwendolyn Brooks Youth Poetry Awards, an annual statewide competition for K-12 students run by Illinois Humanities. This year, 988 students submitted poems, the most ever. Antonio says his idea for his poem came to him immediately.
When I heard about this poem thing, I thought automatically, poem, books.
Antonio attends Whittier Primary School in Peoria, and he's not the only poet at the school. 8-year-old Clara Locke received an honorary mention in the same category. She drew inspiration from her family for her poem, Day at the Beach.
The reason I wrote my poem was because my grandma, who had surgery on her lungs and liver, loved the beach, so I wrote about the beach to remind me of her.
As did 8-year-old Harper Cosley for her poem, My Sister and Me.
I wrote my poem because I really like my sister and she's the only sister I have.
Common themes for this year's poems included places with special significance to the poets, interpersonal relationships, and nature, according to Illinois Humanities. Shirlene Dominguez was a previous competition winner. She used the sky as inspiration for her poem, The Stars and the Sun and the Moon.
I wrote my poem because I heard about the star at the morning. Not all of them are gone, but the sun is one of the stars.
9-year-old Charlotte Tyler's poem was titled Sunset of the Flowers. She is also a past winner of the competition.
The hardest part was definitely coming up with the idea and seeing if things rhymed or went well together.
The young poet said the writing process was educational. For Charlene, she learned it's not all about winning.
If you win, you could be happy. If you lose, you could be happy too, because at least you got in poetry.
And Charlotte learned to find beauty in the endings.
My favorite part of writing the poem was the ending. The endings are always such beautiful parts of the poem.
The students credited their families, friends, and teachers for helping them with their poems. Charlotte says they also got help from Whittier librarian Jennifer Brady.
I had a lot of help from our librarian, Miss Brady. The poem that won, she helped me correct a lot of things and helped me write the ending.
Brady says she's happy the competition is inspiring students to write more.
I am so excited about kids who just write because they can and that they're inspiring each other. And I think that is so cool.
Whittier might have some future authors as alumni, like Harper.
I've always wanted to be a gymnast, but I want to have 2 jobs, to be an author and a gymnast.
Clara has also added author to her future career plans.
I want to be an artist, except I want to see if I can try and write a guidebook about shading.
As one of this year's winners, Antonio will travel to Chicago to read his poem at the award ceremony. He also won $100, which he plans to spend on video games and decorations for his hamster named Hamsty. As for their next poems, the students already have some ideas in mind. Here's Harper's.
I would want to write it about being not being perfect, but being imperfect just the way you are.
Charlotte's next poem will be about books, Antonio's about the video game Legend of Zelda, Clara's about Fairy Tale Land, and Charlene's about superheroes. As part of the awards, Illinois Humanities also creates video lessons, writing prompts, and lesson guides to help teach the state's young poets. Those resources are available on their website. For WCBU's On Deck, I'm Cameron Cutinello.
Now, before we let you go, it's a baseball night in Peoria as the Peoria Chiefs continue their home series against the Fort Wayne Tin Caps tonight at Dozer Park. The season wraps up in September with just one more home series after this one, so catch the game at 6:35 p.m. with $2 popcorn, ice cream sandwiches, and nachos. And that's all for today. You can subscribe to WCBU's On Deck podcast on the NPR app, Apple, Spotify, or YouTube Music.